If you've recently started playing Delta Force Tactical Turmoil, or if you're still waiting for a key to get in, I have 6 essential tips which will make your start much easier than mine. When getting into a new game, it's important to know what you should focus on first and what you can leave for later. So without further ado, let's get started. When you enter the game, the first thing you want to see is what kind of operator you want to play as. You do this by clicking operators and going through all currently available operators. Currently, there are 4 different classes that you can pick from, and each operator has a different skill set and equipment. You can get a detailed explanation on what each skill does by pressing the F button on your keyboard or clicking on details. Here you can see all equipment and skills that operator has and what they do. Additionally, you can click preview or S on your keyboard to see a video showing what each skill looks like. Familiarize yourself with all operators so that when you meet them on the battlefield, you can know exactly what they can do and how you can counter it. My personal favorite operators are Stinger and Luna. My next tip for you is something I wish anyone told me when I started playing, is to not pick up every item you see when you're deployed. When you're just starting out, your stash size won't be big, and you won't have options to easily upgrade it. Some items in-game currently have no real use or are not worth picking up for the inventory space or their value. You've probably already noticed that all items in the game have a color assigned to them, and if you've played any similar game or if you've played RPGs, you should be familiar with the tier system. The lowest tier items are gray or white. I still can't figure out the exact color here. Next, it's the green items, followed by blue, purple, gold, and finally red. What this means is that during your looting, avoid picking up items of lower tier since higher tier items can bring in more money when sold. Additionally, some of the higher tier items are mandatory for black site upgrades, aka your home base. I'll touch up on that a bit later. As you keep playing, you will get a general idea of the cost for some items, and you might actively go out of your way in pursuit of those items, just because they sell for more on the auction house. Each item does have an estimated value assigned to it, but this number isn't always accurate, which brings me to the next topic, and that is the auction house. The auction house is a place where items are sold and bought by other players. As you can see, each item has a price attached to it, but when we go to sell or buy it at the auction house, we can see that the price is much higher. The price can also be much lower, so keep that in mind as well. When buying from the auction house, the game will automatically offer you the cheapest item currently available, and when you do buy them, they will be added to your stash. On the other hand, when selling items, there are a few things that you should look out for. I'm going to take this item here as an example. When we click on sell, it will give us the option to either sell to the merchant or directly to the auction house. Keep in mind that sometimes the auction house price might not be accurate, so just click it to double check and refresh the price list. In this graph here, you can see how many wide-angle lenses are being offered at a certain price. You can scroll the list to see how many lenses are currently being offered on the market. The suggested price for this item is around 55,000, but actual price, due to rarity and demand, is above 200,000. But you can probably see that the expected revenue is almost 160,000. When you hover over the question mark here, you can see a detailed breakdown of how the expected revenue is being calculated. Each item has a handling fee attached to it, and for now, I have no idea how it's calculated, but it does seem to be between 5 and 20%. If anyone knows, please let me know in the comments below. When you set the price, select 24 hours since there is no benefit of having the duration set to 12, and just click list. Sadly, sometimes I've seen that the expected revenue can also be inaccurate, so take all prices with a grain of salt until they fix their auction house price calculation. Just look at this example. Expected revenue and actual money received are not the same, but it's the same item, which is quite odd. As a final note, some items might not be worth selling on the auction house and should be sold to a merchant instead. Here's an example for this digital camera. The merchant price is just a bit above 67,000, whereas the auction house price is close to 75,000. But when you look at the expected revenue, you can see that in this case you're actually losing one Technic alloy by not selling to the merchant. This might be a bad example, but there are some items where you can lose up to a few thousand by not selling to the merchant, like this cutlass for example. Which brings me to my next tip, and that is the favorite system. Each item in the game can be added to your personal favorite system, which you can access by clicking on Auction and selecting Favorites under the Purchase menu. If you don't have any favorite items, you can add any item to this list by clicking on the little star when you click on that item. When searching any cabinet, case or similar, and an item which you have added to your favorite list pops up, that item will have a star on top of it, indicating that you found a favorite item. This also applied for items that aren't in containers, like this military photo here. I use this system to mark items related to tasks since I usually forget about my objective or what I need to extract with for progress. You can also add favorite items for some gear barters found in the supply stations. As you can see, most of the guns here require a barter instead of cash if you want to purchase them, and this is also true for storage crates as well. My personal favorite thing to do is to check the T&E lab for new limited time items that you can barter for. I found barters here which have been a literal steal, bringing in 10 and 20,000 currency as profit. Here's the scope for example. I already had the barter items, which if purchased cost around 17,000 and I sold the scope for 40,000, bringing in a profit of over 23,000. As you're starting out, you will want to make as much money as possible so that when you die you can re-gear fast and get back into the fight as soon as possible. But I understand that sometimes luck just isn't on your side, and no matter how hard you try, there seems to always be someone that's more accurate than you or brings in better gear and equipment. That's where loadouts and re-gear tickets come into play. When you first click on Prepare, you should be able to see the currently available locations on the map. Click on the map you want to head to and gear up. You should now be met with a familiar menu, but if you recently died, your character probably doesn't have anything on them. So you can manually go and pick out your gear, add your guns, ammo and similar, or you can click L on your keyboard, or this button down here to go into the Loadouts menu. I'm a bit ashamed, but it took me well over 20 games to notice this option here. When you first open it, this is how it's going to look like, with your previous loadout at the top and 4 empty slots for custom loadouts. There are also 3 loadouts which seem to be predetermined, but I have never touched those since you can't edit or change stuff out. To make a custom loadout, click on the empty space and start adding gear to it. As you add gear or guns, if you do not have something, the game will automatically show the purchase price of that item and there will be a shopping cart icon on top of that item. If you do have the item, like this gun for example, there won't be an icon on top of it. You can also add ammo and meds to the loadout. Once you make your loadout, you can save it and purchase everything at once. But if money is tight right now and you can't buy something new as shiny for yourself, there is a cheaper alternative. When you're on the original Gear Up menu where you can manually add gear, you can either click R or click the little button called Gear Set to open a new menu. Introducing Re-Gear Tokens. Again, it took me well over 20 games to even notice this feature. Similar to other games which have a scav system, Delta Force has a re-gear token system where the cheapest ones cost 2,000, the standard costs 5,000 and the elite can't be bought currently. Each token gives you a randomly generated, somewhat predetermined set of gear, ammo and meds which you can use to go into a match. There are of course downsides to using these tokens. First, they are limited. You can only buy a certain amount of tokens per day, and none of the gear, ammo or meds can be changed. This means that whatever you buy with that token, that's what you can keep, and that's what you spawn in the game with. There is a workaround for this where you can use a gear token and add items to your secure container before you queue up for a match. Additionally, if you used a re-gear token and successfully extracted from your game, you get to keep everything. There are certainly some benefits as well as downsides to using re-gear tokens, but when money is tight, they can be a lifesaver since it's better than nothing. Keep in mind that you can purchase re-gear tokens from the Assault Supply Station, but this one is a bit odd. When I purchase them, I get standard gear tokens, but I've had people say they only get recruit tokens. Which one do you get when you buy a token for 5,000? Please let me know. The final tip that I wish I knew when I first started is information about the Black Site. This is your safe house which has upgrade stations that offer a way to craft ammo, gear, meds, and also some stations which improve certain stats of your character. When I first started the game, I wasn't sure what the Black Site is, until it gave me the options to upgrade it. Currently, to me, there are only 3 upgrades which are worth going for, and that is the Stash upgrade, the Central Command HQ upgrade, and the CSD or Gym upgrade. The Stash upgrade expands your stash size, the Command Center increases how many items you can add on the auction house, and the Gym directly increases stamina. Stamina regeneration and movement speed when downed. The rest just unlocks stuff you can make, but currently it takes too long to make something and it's just not worth it. And yes, I am aware the firing range also increases your carrying capacity, but when is the last time you had too much kilograms of gear in your inventory? Maybe when you start using tier 4 and 5 gear that might come into play, but until then, save your money. I suggest using the favorite system and mark important items which you need to upgrade your Black Site. Currently, the most basic materials cost 5 times as much because of demand, but the average cost should eventually die down. Until then, click on the item you are looking for, click on source and see where that item can be found. Do keep in mind that this will just show where the item is most likely to spawn, but it is not the only location or map it can appear in. After reaching level 30, I've unlocked and upgraded all currently available Black Site areas, and I suggest you only focus on those 3, unless money is good and you've got extra to spare. And that's it. That's all 6 essential tips that you have that I didn't when I first started playing. How many of these did you know? And did you find these tips helpful toward new players? Please let me know in the comments below, and if it's not too much to ask, can you please like the video? You have no idea how beneficial that is to me, and additionally, it will let me know you show your support. I will be making an advanced guide at a later time too, so keep a lookout for that as well, and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching and see you all in the next one.